Hi everybody, welcome to our new book club. Happy New Year. I hope you're having an amazing January and it's super fun to go back to doing things like you used to. We took a couple of months off from the book club, but here we are again, and I was super excited to find this book, which is called Finish by Jon Acuff. And I was at the bookstore just looking for some fun things to read. And this book literally kind of jumped out at me. I think it has a super fun cover too. You know how they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I totally did. I have a couple of Jon's book, and to be completely honest, I never read any of them. And he's super funny, and I totally related to his humor and his storytelling. So it was a really fun, easy read. I read this book in like a few hours, so it wasn't difficult to read at all. And I took a whole bunch of notes, highlighted a ton of pages, and I'm going to write an extensive report. So if you are not familiar with our reports, on a monthly basis, I deliver these to all of the people that we're in touch with in their inbox, and then you get to keep this, which is like a fun summary about the book. So if you're interested to receive that in your inbox, you can sign up below and we'll send that to you directly to your inbox. So I am Chris Grott with Organizing Maniacs, and we are a professional organizing company in the DC metro area. We specialize in working with clients with brain-based challenges. So the majority of our clients have ADD, ADHD, OCD, and hoarding tendencies. We of course like to work with super organized people, but that's our specialty and that's what we do. So in our work, we try to find simple ways to simplify how we teach people to get organized. And the reason why I started this book club a few years ago is because I noticed that a lot of my clients had a lot of books and they were reading these books and there was no context to how to apply it. So in theory, it's great to read a book and get some ideas, but what do you do with it? And sometimes I read books and I find myself saying that a lot, like, okay, this was great, but how do I go about implementing any of this stuff? So this is the reason why I started this book club, which I think is about 3 years ago. So I loved Jon, and I'm really excited that we're going to start the year with this book, just because it is about chronic starting things, which honestly, I am really good at that. I have owned a business for almost 12 years, and it's so easy for me to start things, but as my work gets busy, as life gets complicated, I'm so quick to just jump ship and go into the next thing without ever finishing the thing I was working on before. So I have literally thousands of projects that I started, books, programs, ideas, blogs, you name it, that were never finished. And I was really perplexed by this book. And it is based on a study that he conducted with a scientist on a program that he runs for his own clients, which is something that he ran online, and then it was just a way to encourage people to accomplish a goal. So it was a little bit of just a challenge that he gave people for 30 days. And based on the people that participated in that program, they created real data that talked about what is it like for people to create goals and why is it that we never finish anything. So that's how this book came about for him. But I'm going to start off with a quote from the book that I thought was really interesting. It says, "Life is always a little different than we expected." Isn't it true? I wake up every day and I have grandiose plans, and most days don't work out the way I plan. I hope that you relate to that. So according to studies, 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. So 100% of us wake up on January 1st with some sort of a goal, award, an idea, a resolution, and 92% of us will fail from that. And that's a significant number, right? We have as much chance of finishing our new year, our January 1st goal, as we have of getting into Juilliard and becoming a ballerina. Like, that's like really sad statistics. In the book, he basically talks about chronic starting and how we all do that. I 100% related to that. And there were some really good applications to how to make your goals attainable. I'm going to talk just about a few of the ones that were my favorite, but the book is just filled with so many more that I just couldn't quite fit on this short video. But he says if you want to finish something, first and most important thing, we need to get rid of perfectionism, because perfectionism is the reason why most of us never finish any of our projects. We have to make it fun. He talks about how we see goals as something of a torture, which, you know, I work with people on helping them accomplish their goals and become more productive. So I totally see that happening all the time. He suggested cutting our goal in half. So if you woke up on January 1st and your goal was to lose 20 pounds, he says immediately cut that in half to like 10 pounds. And because you just minimized your goal by half, you're much more likely to accomplish that goal. And then we have to choose what is it that we're not going to do in life to accomplish our goals. We all tend to, you know, have these very grand ideas of all the things we're going to accomplish on a daily basis. And funny enough, I have an accountability buddy, and this morning we were having a conversation about what was she going to accomplish today. And her list was just so big that I didn't think there was any way she was going to accomplish all of that in one day. So I had to call her out on it and say, okay, your list is a little bit unrealistic. Like, what are the 3 things that you're actually going to get accomplished? And just kind of hone her back a little bit on her goals, just because I think it's so easy for us to say, like, I'm going to finish 10 major projects, and then at the end of the day maybe finish 1, and because we only finish 1, we feel horrible about ourselves instead of feeling good about the fact that you did finish 1, which is really the more realistic thing than to actually say we're going to finish 10 projects, right? We tend to emphasize too much on beginnings. Like, it's super easy to start something. The first day is the best day. We have a lot of excitement, and I see that in organizing a lot. The first day is like novelty, right? My new fresh organizer is coming in. We're going to get a lot of work done. And then after 4 hours, people are fatigued and they're exhausted, and we didn't organize their entire house in 4 hours. So we tend to lose people at that point. Just because their idea of what they were going to get accomplished is not the reality of what's going to happen. And when we don't push ourselves to the next day, right? Because like first day is great, but second day is really the most important day. If you show up for your goal on the second day, you're much more likely, once again, to continue doing it than if you just showed up one day. He also talks about the day we miss our goal is one of the very next most important days. So let's say we were just running a 30-day organizing challenge, and the first week everybody shows up. We have a huge turnout on the first week. Second week, not so much, right? And I think sometimes people are like, well, second week in January is kind of busy, I couldn't show up. So instead of coming back on the third week and saying, hey, it's okay, I missed 1 week, I'm just gonna start on the third week, people just don't show up at all. So that's what he's talking about, like whenever you miss your workout, right? Or like, I don't know about you, but I meditate every single day, and some days I miss it, you know, whether I wake up late or I have to leave early or something happened that I miss my alarm clock, or I don't feel like it, or my brain is just too occupied with whatever. I could easily just stop meditating altogether. And he says that's the day that we mostly lose our habit, is the day we miss our routine. And his advice is to forget that, you know, you ate too many brownies today and that you're supposed to be on a diet. Tomorrow is a new day, and start fresh and start all over again, and just be committed to your goal even though you may have failed today. Because when you start saying might as well, right? We see a lot of that in hoarding situations where, you know, people lose control of their homes and then they start throwing the trash on the floor. And I hear people saying that, well, might as well just throw it here because it's already a mess anyway, so why pick it up, right? I missed my workout, I ate brownies yesterday, might as well not go back to the gym and might as well eat more brownies. Or, you know, I missed my organizing appointment, might as well not go back to it because it's not gonna get done. So be very careful of those days when you miss your workout, because those are the days that are really important in actually getting you back on track. So we tend to remember incomplete goals more than complete ones. So I highly recommend keeping a sheet, you know, somewhere in your office, somewhere in your closet, behind the door somewhere, in the kitchen pantry. If you are interested in losing weight and eating better, just keep track on your pantry, like when you didn't eat chips, that you thought about eating chips, right? Or when you threw the chips away because you couldn't resist eating them, or, you know, or the fact that you have lost 5 pounds, or the fact that you lost 2 pounds, or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, write the positive things somewhere, so whenever you go by it, you're reminded of those positive markers into your goal, and you're not just remembering when you failed at it. Those are really important. So he said something that was super interesting, and I felt like it really described goals. When we create a goal, we aim for something better. We want to look better, we want to feel better, we want to be better. But then we turn that into best. We don't want small growth, right? We want massive overnight success. Now, out of a sudden, I don't just want to lose 5 pounds anymore. Now I want to lose 50 pounds, right? And my goal of, like, you know, like, maybe now I don't want to write a blog post anymore. Now I want to write a book, or I want to write a New York Times bestseller, or, you know, I want to write a book that will be translated into 40 languages, when the original goal was just to write a blog post. So basically, instead of trying to turn your goal into something massive, just go back to the original goal and remember what that is, and just stick to that goal. And not just stick to it, but cut it in half, right? So instead of writing a blog post, maybe I'm just gonna write the bullet points there at the beginning of the blog post. So he talks about a couple of lies we tell ourselves about perfectionism. So the first lie of perfectionism is that you should quit if it isn't perfect. And I hear that a lot from people. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, not that much with my projects anymore. I think after 12 years of working with people on their projects, I have lightened up quite a bit. But I see that a lot, right? If people are working on something and it isn't perfect, they tend to quit. So that is a lie. You don't have to quit just because it's imperfect. Done is better than perfect any day of the week. The second lie is that your goals should be bigger. We just talked about that, right? So instead of making massive goals, make smaller goals. Because one thing that we see a lot, and there's actually there was a study done, is the planning fallacy. And this was a study done by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And basically it talked about how it's described as a phenomenon in which predictions about how much time it'll be needed to complete a future task is optimistic and biased, and it underestimates the amount of time needed. I see that time and time again. People call here and they say, can you organize my entire house? And then I say, well, how long do you think that's gonna take? And they say, oh, 2 days should be enough, right? Never the truth. Whenever you think something is going to take 2 days, it's really going to take more like 6 days. So I see that quite a bit. And one funny thing that I think I'm seeing lately is everybody's watching Marie Kondo on Netflix right now, and everybody's pulling all of their categories, you know, into the middle of the room, and then they realize that they have this massive amounts of books or clothing or whatever it is that people are pulling in. And then they also underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to deal with that pile. So we're getting calls from people saying like, well, I created a Marie Kondo pile and now I don't know what to do with it because I'm completely overwhelmed, nor do I have enough time to take care of it. So keep that in mind when you are planning to do things, is that we always tend to underestimate how long things are going to take, which goes with what he was saying about cutting our plans in half, right? If you have this massive goal and you think it's going to take a couple of weeks, it's likely going to take a lot longer. One other approach he's saying about goals is, instead of cutting them in half, if they're not cuttable in half, right, is to double the amount of time that you have to accomplish the goal. So if you're saying you're going to lose 50 pounds in 30 days, which is clearly not realistic, say, you know, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 60 days, and that's a much more realistic goal. Line number 3 that we tell ourselves, which is pretty huge, is that we can do it all. And the truth is that we cannot. So he suggests to be very specific about some of the things that you are never going to accomplish, right? We are very busy people, and there are lots of things that we do that do not take us down the path of accomplishing our goals. So start looking around and start figuring out what some of those things are, and maybe start eliminating some of those things from your life, and just coming to admit that in order to spend more time with your family, everybody's not going to be perfectly ironed every single time, right? In order to spend more time with your kids, maybe you'll have to say no to volunteering. So start looking around and seeing what some of the things that are not taking you towards your goal, and how can you eliminate them from your life. So love that. He says, no is just a complete sentence. So just say no, no long explanations, no apologies, no justifications. Just say no to people, and you're going to start feeling a lot better, and you're going to be more likely to have time to accomplish your real goals, which are the things that are important to you. So just a few more things about goals. Just make it fun, right? Because we don't want to be bogged down on things that are just absolutely horrific. And if you don't make it fun, even going to the gym, I think for years I try to just join a regular gym and just go there by myself. And I realized that is not my thing, right? I like to be with people. I like to be accountable. I like to do it with my friends. So I'm much more likely to go to classes, and I know that about myself. So instead of joining a regular gym, I just commit to going to something that's fun. So I combine social time with exercise and fun all of the same, and I'm much more likely to exercise. Some of us are motivated by reward, and some of us are motivated by fear. And the way to motivate ourselves either way is very important, right? Because if you are motivated by reward, you want to make sure that you have those built into your goal. And if you're motivated by fear, we clearly are wired for, I think if you're talking about, just losing weight, which I think is the easiest thing to talk about when you're talking about goals, is that if you're motivated by fear, then you're much more likely to be thinking about the fact that you could die of a heart attack, or you could have some body disease, or you could die too early for any causes. And living a healthy lifestyle will allow you to spend more time with your family longer. So understanding what is your motivation is also very, very important to helping you keep track on your goal. There were lots of ways to figure out whether you're motivated by reward or fear in the book. So I highly recommend looking to that if you have no idea. He says the funny thing about failure is that it's loud. And I totally related to that. I think that whenever I think about, I have accomplished a lot in my life, but I always fixate on the things that didn't go right? Because they're loud in my head. I'm always reminded of how I failed at things that I really wanted to accomplish. And we tend to forget the positives. So once again, this is another opportunity to write down how is it that you're succeeding at your goal, and not as much so you're not as focused on the things that you're not doing right, and that that helps you keep going every single day because you're starting fresh. So he says, the funny thing about failure, it's loud, and progress, on the other hand, is quiet. It whispers. Perfectionism screams failures and hides progress. And that couldn't be any better quote. So once again, this was a great book. There were some really amazing tips on how to finish things. I'm just highlighting some of my very few just quickly, otherwise we'd be here all day. And I like to finish off with this one really beautiful quote that was in the book. And it says, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. And working hard for something we love, it's called passion. Simon Sinek said that, and I love all of his books. And it made complete sense to me, because sometimes I feel stress, and that's because I'm working on things that I don't really care about. So I got that. So I hope that in 2019, you're making goals that lead you towards your passion, and that are fun, and they are measurable in a way that you can accomplish them. Not just goals that are arbitrary and that cannot be accomplished. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this book club. I hope you're gonna pick up this book and read it from cover to cover just like I did. And I hope you are having an amazing month, and I will see you next month. Thanks, bye.